Welcome. Today we're here to talk about sustainability in the home. I would love for this to be a super interactive presentation, so please feel free at any time to ask any questions, say hello. So we'll kick it off with a bit of a question. So when you see the word sustainability, what do you think? And we can just popcorn this and I'll repeat what you all say. Last a long time, lasting forever. Okay, so we have 2 for longevity. Yeah. What else do we think when we think sustainability? Regeneration, yeah. What was that? Natural, yeah, natural. Definitely. Maybe one more? No? Okay. So, like you all hit on, sustainability is comprised of a lot of elemental aspects, and we think of it lasting a long time. So something we'll say in the sustainability field is there's like an idea of a 7-generation rule. So whatever we have today in an ideal world would also be present for 7 generations from today, which is a long time. But we would love for it to be available indefinitely. But sustainability is more than just the environment. So we tend to talk of sustainability as being comprised of people, planet, profit, but if you really break it down, you'll realize that profit is probably driving a lot of the different consumer decisions that we are making or have been made by larger corporations. So it is this interconnectivity. So there is social aspects, economic aspects, and environmental aspects to sustainability. And what that looks like, if you were to break it down, is actually these sustainable development goals. And so very clearly you can see there's no poverty, no hunger, affordable and clean energy as one of the goals. And all of these things play into what a sustainable world would look like. If I had more time, we'd go through an exercise where I talk about a shirt, and we talk about the journey of a shirt from the point it was cotton to the point it was sold to you. But we don't have a lot of time today to go through those kind of impacts. We're going to talk about some of the things that we do day to day. So you may use technology in your home every single day, whether that's a cell phone or perhaps watching Netflix, streaming different services. We use energy in our home. So obviously we have heating, cooling, lights, all of those kind of things. I'm not going to tell you to skip a hot shower. I love a hot shower. We, of course, have water that we're consuming, and we are, of course, making meals, enjoying food in our homes. And so we're going to talk a little bit first about the sustainable practices that we can incorporate inside of our home. And so these slides are basically in different themed chunks. So if you have a question that goes really well with that theme, that would be a good time to ask that question. And so this first one is saving energy and water, simple solutions. And I think it's important to acknowledge when we're talking about any of this that the most important thing that you can do when it comes to sustainability is just do what you can with what you have where you are, right? Like I tend to want to acknowledge that we're talking about resources, we're talking about limited restrictions just based off of where you live. So composting is something that we'll talk about later, but everyone would really love to compost, but we don't have a regional composter in this area. We don't have an industrial composter, which can be a limitation if you would like to have compost, but then maybe send it to someone else for processing. And so that's going to, impact what you can or cannot do. And we don't feel bad about it. We just do what we can, where we are, with what we have. So some low-hanging fruit in your home would be to install aerators on sink faucets, to seal windows and doors. There was a study that came out a few years ago, and I know in my apartment I have a bunch of little holes in the ceiling from where wires have come down from cable in previous years. And I believe basically the study was like, when you see these little holes, you think, it's just a tiny hole, it's not really doing much, but typically when you add it up between window drafts and holes in your ceiling, those kind of things, it can result in up to a baseball or basketball-sized hole being in your apartment. So obviously, you're losing a lot of energy that way. So, maximizing the efficiency of your home is actually way more impactful in a lot of circumstances than adding on green technology. Using power strips to avoid phantom power, so that's the idea that power is always going through cords. That way when you hit the on button, it actually turns on. But you can have a power strip to turn on and off so you're not having that same phenomenon happen. And of course, moderating your temperature in your house to keep it at 78 in the summer and 68 in the winter. Not gonna lie, I keep mine on 75. It's very hot in Florida. and adjust your water heater if you have the ability to. And of course, I rent, and my water heater is in a wooden box, so I can't actually access it. So again, those are things that can limit what you may be able to do. If you're able to switch to LEDs and seal your windows, install large window curtains. I'm a big fan of blackout curtains. They make a big difference in the temperature of your space. And to change your air filter every month. I did not know how much a difference that made, but I had an issue where my AC broke, and it was because the air filter hadn't been changed in a while. It was the first time I had lived in an apartment. And it does help keep your costs low and make a more energy efficient system. And if you're looking for an energy audit of your home, the City of Tallahassee and Talquin give free energy audits. So you can schedule for someone to come into your space and look around and give suggestions of things that you might be able to do to make your space more efficient. And that's where you're going to see a lot of gains, is just by making your space more efficient. So I highly recommend doing that. We have a program in the county called Sustainabiz, and we actually require that businesses that are applying for that program get an energy audit done so they can see what they can do to help make their business the most sustainable. And then they get a different rating: bronze, silver, gold. Any questions so far? Okay. So saving energy and water, long-term solutions. And this is where kind of the accessibility and resource conversation gets a lot bigger, because these are typically bigger investments that you're making into your property to make them more sustainable. And of course, solar has been a huge hot topic in the state, I would say, during session. There was a bill about net metering, which I believe was just vetoed. So nothing is changing in that way right now. To replace old appliances with Energy Star related appliances, and of course to insulate your house. So specifically next we'll go ahead and talk about solar. I know we had some requests to talk about solar, so there may be questions that you all have. But there are some resources that are worth talking about. And so one of the programs that we administer as the county is PACE, which is Property Assessed Clean Energy Loans. And it's a vendor that's approved by the county, and we have certain consumer protections to ensure that they do what they say they're going to do to engage in this contract with us. And it's for energy efficient projects. So if you want to replace your air conditioner, or you want to replace windows in your house, or if you want to consider solar panels, there are different contractors and vendors through this PACE program that can help you do that, and they will set up a finance plan with you, and you can work out those individual details with that contractor. And highlighting here too the Solar United Neighbors, which is a solar co-op essentially. It's national, so it's a lot bigger, but it also helps make getting solar a little bit more accessible. And there is also a program through the City of Tallahassee that works with your utility bill to finance these kind of upgrades as well. So I did see we have a question right here in the front. No? Yes. One moment. Let's get the microphone. What is the PACE program? So yeah, it's a Property Assessed Clean Energy program. And essentially, I hate to use this analogy, but maybe it's like Amazon for clean energy projects. So you go in to PACE and you say, I want to replace my air conditioning. And then there are approved vendors through the PACE program that say these are contractors that are going to do good work and they meet our consumer protections. And then they have a financing option. So they'll say, we'll give you the loan at X percentage that you get to pay back over X amount of time. So it's a way to finance your projects with certain vendors who have already met our standards. You know, we just want to make sure that we're setting people up with good companies that are going to do the work that they say they're going to do, and in a timely fashion, so that you don't, end up with a not great system. So, and that's, like I said, for any kind of clean energy, clean, green project for your home. So replacing windows, air conditioners, solar panels, all of those kind of upgrades, even insulation, depending, may fall into a PACE category. And then that, because it's going to increase the efficiency of your home, and then you'll have availability for funding potentially through that program. And there are a variety of different vendors from across the state that we work with to administer the program. So, and there is residential PACE and commercial PACE. So if you had a commercial business, we have commercial branch essentially of PACE. And then of course residential for regular single-family homes. And so those projects vary, obviously, in size, and also who does the work. But right now, our residential PACE program is going through a review and then should be available in about 60 days. So we had a residential program, but we changed vendors to have stricter consumer protections. So we're just going under that review right now. It's already been approved by our board. It's just a matter of getting the final paperwork, and then it'll be on the website and available at Leon County Government for you to click on and apply to if you're interested. Yeah. Other PACE or solar questions? Yes.
PACE is just the Leon County program, or is it?
So the question was, is PACE a Leon County program? So there are different PACE programs across the country, but this one specifically is one that we have worked to set up a contract with our specific consumer protections and expectations. So this is specific to Leon County government and would be available to anyone in Leon County. Yes. Cool. Other questions? Beautiful. So it's always worth talking about waste reduction and disposal when we're talking about greening your home. And we would love to highlight, of course, our household hazardous waste. So that is, we have a drop-off station available at Appalachia Parkway, which is 7550 Appalachia Parkway at Appalachia Regional Park, where you can drop off your household hazardous waste if you are a Leon County citizen. And we also do occasional mobile drop-offs, which will be in designated locations where you can drop your household hazardous waste off. So I've become very aware that there is a camera right in my face. Yes, very discreet. Another thing worth mentioning that's out at Appalachia Parkway, we have a new composting program. So we have these earth composters, which are the composters that we actually do sell through our compost distribution sales that we do. So we have these earth machines, which is the big black one that's sitting on the ground, and then we have the kitchen composters, and we sell those at wholesale price. We try to do those every other month to try to distribute compost bins. But like I mentioned, composting is kind of tricky. We don't have an industrial composter in our region if you are interested in collecting this compost and then giving it to someone else to process. And it can be a little bit fickle at first to get the right ratio of kind of greens to browns. A lot of people think you just toss all your kitchen scraps in there and then it's going to disintegrate into soil, and then you end up with a moldy mess. So something that we do offer at the solid waste facility is chips, wood chips from yard debris. So when yard debris is picked up at your curb, it's taken and sent through a wood chipper at our solid waste facility, and we have coarse chips and fine chips, and they're free. So I would highly encourage, if you're interested in compost, for you to pick up some of those free chips and mix them in with your kitchen scraps to prevent them from getting moldy, and that's going to help it break down as soil. And if you also want to ensure a successful compost, you can mix in some compost from somebody else that's already cooked and done the thing, because it already has the microbiome set up. So then that bacteria is going to find its little environment and start breaking things down really nicely, versus if you're just starting from scratch, it takes a long time for those microbes to start doing the thing. So I would recommend mixing in a little bit of compost, have some of those wood chips that are free at the solid waste facility, and then your kitchen scraps. But would not recommend putting in compostable plastics. A lot of them are actually photodegradable and not biodegradable, so they won't break down in the compost bin, so save your money. Any composting questions? Yeah.
Where can you get the big composter and the little composter?
Yeah, so the question was, where can you get the big composter and the little composter? You can get it through my office. So if you look at the Office of Sustainability with Leon County Government, we actually do these distributions, and we try to do them every other month. And we have a certain amount available. So it is first come, first serve. So I definitely recommend, once the sign-up sheet is released, to go ahead and sign up to get one of those bins, and then, pick it up on distribution day. So we sell those through our office, and we sell them at a wholesale price. I think the big bin is $36 and the small bin is $18. And they work really well together. But you can use anything to collect compost and start compost in your yard. So going to kind of like an equity lens, you don't necessarily need to purchase something in order to make it a functional system. You could just, what I do with my scraps is I freeze them, because I'm in an apartment and I don't really have a place to put my compost. So I'll freeze them in the freezer, and then I will take my scraps to Appalachia Parkway whenever I can. So I'll, like, if I'm cutting vegetables, put my vegetable scraps into the freezer. That way they don't get all like gross on the counter. You can also make veggie stock that way too. I'm sure you all know that, but save your veggie scraps and boil it down to make homemade veggie stock for your different soups. So depending on how much veggie scrap I have, and if I'm going to Appalachia Parkway, then I'll drop it off at our compost site there, or maybe turn it into veggie stock. But you can definitely make your own composting system at home with Tupperware bins even. So that doesn't have to be a barrier to entry that you have to have a specific compost bin. It's more important to get what's going into the compost bin correct than to have the right bin, if that makes sense. Yeah. And you can just go on YouTube or Pinterest or whatever to look that up. So next big thing, of course, is saving water. So you want to make sure that you check for leaks. If you ever notice a big spike in your utility bill, you might have a leak somewhere. Typically, yeah, City of Tallahassee is pretty good at saying, hey, we actually think there's a leak on your property. I've gotten one of those. I live within city limits. I'm sure Talquin does the same thing, and then they come out and, you know, I work with my landlord to get it fixed. But doing that, putting a layer of mulch around trees and garden beds. So once again, we have that free mulch. It's based off of the yard debris that are picked up roadside. But that helps retain moisture for your plants and helps them grow really well and protects their roots. So you could definitely grab some of that for that purpose as well, using efficient sprinklers. And then, to be honest, there's a huge conversation that exists in the world about the right time to water your plants, depending on your different school of thought or philosophy. Some people say you should water overnight so the plants absorb it and they have it through the day. Some people will say water in the morning so you're not getting a lot of the evaporation. But then people will say, oh, but the water droplets on the plant can create burns on the plant. I think there's no great way to do it. My recommendation would definitely be overnight or early morning to prevent evaporation. You want to avoid the hottest parts of the day and just make sure you're being efficient with how you're watering your plants. Oh, look, the free mulch. So yes, this is available year-round for residents, and it's available for free. We've got the coarse mulch and the fine mulch available for pickup.
Do you have containers to put mulch in, or do you need to have
The question was, do we have containers to pick up, to distribute the mulch? We would request that you bring your own container. You can literally use anything, so to do it. And we also do have, you'll have to call to make sure that it's functioning that day, but sometimes we do have a backhoe that can help load larger amounts of compost, but you want to call and make sure it's on site that day in order to do that if you're looking to get a larger amount of compost. But otherwise, you can just use utility buckets, or, you know, if you have any kind of bags. I always save bags and jars and bins and those kind of things. And so you could definitely pick up whatever compost you need in anything. It's a good question. The mulch, yes, the mulch for your compost or for your trees or yard work or what have you. Yeah, that's.
The mulch, if you have soil erosion, would that be good for that?
So the question was about soil erosion and mulch, and it could be a solution. I think you have to get to the root cause of your erosion first, because it's still going to carry away mulch if, you know, it's coming from a water stream from somewhere. But if it's just regular erosion, it could help. So it depends. So I'd evaluate the situation, and if there's a source of water or something that is causing erosion. But if it's just, you know, regular day-to-day kind of upkeep, it would be beneficial most likely. But that's very much, it depends on the scenario. But especially since it's a free resource, so it would definitely be worth trying out. Yeah. Okay. So a couple of you all have mentioned and are already aware of this, but next weekend we are actually having an open house and plant sale here with the UF IFAS extension. So they've got plants that they have grown. So if you are looking to get some plants, native plants for your yard, that's always going to be more efficient on water and hopefully survive our climate. We will have native plants for sale through the open house and plant sale, and the Office of Sustainability will be there. We're going to be tabling, so we'll have all of our resources available as well. Apparently, I was also supposed to be tabling today, but I thought I was just giving a presentation, so dropped the ball on that one. But I'm here. So we also do composting workshops with the IFAS extension where they give their best practices on how to compost, and then we do usually a bin sale associated with it. And if you go to the class, we typically sell the bins at a discounted rate for attending the class. And they'll tell you how to set up your compost bin really well and get it functioning and best practices for that, and then pick up the compost bins from us. We just did that about 2 weeks ago, so I think it's going to be another couple months before we do another one of those. Just summer tends to be really, really busy for the extension, but in the fall we also do a rain barrel program with the extension. So we're constantly trying to find ways to collaborate and help encourage gardening, sustainable gardening. So the next section is a variety of sustainability quiz type questions. But before getting into that, I think it would be a great time if there are any more questions from you all before getting into those. No? Okay. Well, we have a sustainability quiz. So the first question is, how much trash does the average American generate each day? Does anyone have any idea?
4.4 pounds.
That is correct. Yes, 4.4 pounds, which is a lot. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's a day. I just finished the DEP recycling report for Leon County, which handles, of course, also municipal waste, yard debris, construction and demolition waste, and yeah, it's always surprising when you look at the aggregate data, the impact even a city our size, we're not a huge city, can have. But at the same time, looking at the distribution, municipal solid waste makes up such a small slice of the pie. So it's a good thing to be aware of, but definitely not, once again, we're not feeling guilty or bad about it, but trying to be smart consumers where we can. And, if we can find a way to avoid purchasing plastic, for example, then that's great. But if you can't, then that's okay too. Plastic is an interesting point of conversation. We always get asked about, individual action versus collective action, because I think everyone became very aware of that the past couple of years. There was a report about, 90% of waste comes from the top 1%, 10% of companies. And that makes a lot of sense because they're using a lot of resources, they're shipping things a lot of places, they have a huge carbon footprint. And so the question is often, does it matter if I recycle? And my response is always yes. And it may not necessarily be for the immediate impact of the recycling, but we know that behaviors change attitudes. Attitudes don't change behaviors. So if someone recycles, that tells me a lot about how they're going to support green policy. So if someone engages in recycling, they're probably going to care enough to support a piece of green legislation or try to advocate for more sustainable options in their community. So it matters from kind of a voting power perspective more than it does environmental impact, which I think is very interesting. But that's also one of those things that it matters who you ask to, because that's not going to be everybody's take on it as well. But for me, it matters a lot if someone recycles because it just indicates a larger culture of care for the environment. So, what accounts for the most energy use in American homes? I think we all know this one here. Yeah, heating and cooling. Yep, heating and cooling. So a fun fact about this building that we are in, we are actually in a net zero building. This building generates enough energy to power itself and then some. And so the solar panels that are outside, though, they are not enough to power this building. Does anyone know how this building handles its heating and cooling? Not plants. So this building actually uses geothermal heating and cooling. So that field that you parked in, there's actually 16 different geothermal vats, and air and water circulate between those vats, and at the ground temperature, because there's several, I think it's like 20 feet deep, that remains a pretty constant temperature all year. So that water and air circulates through those vats and is heated and cooled, and so in the winter, the ground is warmer than the air, so it provides heat for the building. And then the summer, it's cooler, so it provides air for the building. So the largest chunk of the energy for this building is being generated from geothermal heating and cooling, which is right in that field you parked in, which is really cool. If you look closely, the field is a little wobbly. That is why. You are on geothermal vats. But The solar handles the rest of the energy, and it also has reclaimed rainwater in this building that are going to 40,000 gallon cisterns that are actually upcycled gas containers from like gas stations. So pretty cool there as well. But yeah, that's how we reduce the energy consumption enough in this building to keep it net zero, on top of upgrades like LEDs and low-flow faucets and all those good things. How much electricity does a typical American home use per month? This one's tricky. A? No, it's actually B, about 900 kilowatt hours, which when you're talking about solar is an interesting conversation. So I had a conversation with someone today that works in this building, and they were like, hey, I thought this building was powered by solar panels. I was like, yeah, I mean, part of it is powered by solar panels. It takes a lot of solar panels to generate the amount of solar that you need to power a home. But then beyond that, that solar is not generating all day, every day. It's on a bell curve. So in the morning, it's generating very little. And then when you have peak sunshine, it's generating a lot and then back down. So solar panels actually feed into the grid. You wouldn't, it's not hooked up directly to your home, because then you would only have power for those couple hours in the day where you're having peak sunshine. So this building lost power the other day when there was that big power outage, and everyone was like, wait a minute, I thought we had solar power. I was like, you do, but that solar power feeds into the grid and then gets to you, because otherwise you'd only have power a couple hours a day. But anyway, basically, the power companies know how much solar you're generating, take that out of your bill, and either give you a credit or a deduction based off of it. So if you generate more than you need, you get a positive credit, or you could break even or owe a tiny bit. Which is not a way to save energy at home? C, yeah, oh my gosh, you guys, you got this. People are usually surprised about this because they'll often close doors or close the HVAC vents, but it actually puts unnecessary strain on your HVAC system, and so it can increase your bill, which is the opposite effect of what you were hoping to do. So that can be a bit of a challenge. So yeah, thanks for entertaining that little quiz. My next slide is the thank you slide. We're a couple minutes ahead of time, so I will take any and all related sustainability questions. Yeah, what's your question?
Regarding recycling, I've had people say, oh, we can throw this in, we can throw that in, and I'm like, no, we can't. This is not what they take.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of me wants to say, and there's a human somewhere sorting this out.
Yes.
Physically sorting,
Mm-hmm.
and that's an issue.
Yes.
So just would you please address that topic
Mm-hmm.
about the people that, and,
Yeah.
and those recycle things, I've heard that just because it has it, it doesn't mean our county does it.
Yes, plastic is very interesting to talk about, and what I will tell you is plastic 100% of the time in the long run is going to end up in the landfill. So the first thing you need to understand about plastic is those numbers essentially equate to the quality of plastic, right? Like a Tupperware bin is clearly a stronger plastic than a straw. So what happens when plastic is recycled, those bonds are heated up and melted down into something new. But plastic is really weak. So when it gets heated up, those bonds degrade every single time through the process. So it's not like glass or aluminum where you heat it up, you get almost a 100% upgrade. No, you're getting a downgrade every single time plastic goes through the system. So even if plastic can be recycled today, that doesn't mean that that same piece of plastic is going to be recyclable in a couple months from today. So plastic is really tricky in that what can be recycled is directly correlated to the quality of the plastic. So you can usually pretty visibly see, this is quality plastic, this can be recycled. And so that's really what people are talking about when they're talking about the different numbers of plastic. Because the market has developed in such a way, nobody wants to buy the poor quality plastic anymore because it can't be turned into anything else. It can't create anything else, which is why recyclers don't want it. So if you look at, in Leon County, we accept all plastic numbers, but but it does vary by municipality, so you have to check your municipality and see what is accepted. So in Leon County, we'll take it all, but of course, no plastic bags, no straws, but it is a very valid point, and this goes to the social impact of sustainability. There is humans that are managing our waste streams. So there is someone that's sorting your recycling when it arrives at MARPAN. And I'll also be frank and say, you know, if you have a contaminated batch, they don't have enough labor to spare to sort through it. So it actually is better, when in doubt, throw it out, because if something contaminated makes it on that line, they don't have the labor to do it. That belt actually moves at 600 feet a second. So they see it, they pluck it, they throw it. So if it's not recyclable, it's not going through. And even if you had recyclable things with it, it's not going to make it. So always let your recyclables go through loose, not in any kind of plastic bags, because they'll just be thrown out. And if you're afraid something's going to contaminate a batch, it may feel bad to throw it away, but it's actually better for the greater good of recycling to say, when in doubt, throw it out. And it's also interesting, lots of literature would support that recycling, we have a lot of wish cycling. People are like, I want to feel good about having consumed this thing, so I'm going to put it in the recycling bin. Recycling has an adverse effect on waste streams. So you want to recycle because it's really good, but people actually end up consuming more because they think that it's going to get recycled. So yeah, that wish cycling thing is a little bit complicated. Excellent question, though. All right, in the back, the microphone. Yes.
Question for composting.
Yeah, go for it.
You know, we shred paper, you know, our old bills and things like that. Can that go in the compost bin?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't put anything like envelopes with plastic film on it. Like, you know, when they have the plastic where you can see the address, you wouldn't want plastic getting mixed into your composting. But cardboard without staples, because you just don't want to like cut your hand on that. Paper scraps, those kind of things, all go excellent for compost. It's just a balance of how much wet stuff you have breaking down to how much dry stuff you have breaking down. And so you just don't want to put in too much, because then the compost gets too dry and those microbes don't have anything to eat. But you also don't want soup. So it does take a little bit to get that balance right. Yeah. Other final questions? Yeah, microphone?
Also, in my experience with plastic, how do we determine, you know, what plastics we empty or whatnot? As far as like those, are you like bottles?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely recycle your water bottles for sure. Those are definitely recyclable. You can toss them right in the bin. Would recommend tossing them in empty. With plastics, it gets kind of complicated with things like Starbucks, right? Where like you may have a whipped cream drink and that whipped cream gets moldy and that's going to contaminate a batch. So things that are really like gooey, icky, you're going to want to rinse out before putting in the recycling bin. But if it's just tea, water, soda, those kind of things, you can just chuck it right into the bin. There's very few things in Leon County that cannot be recycled that are plastic. We're really talking like plastic bags, like what you get from the grocery store, or plastic straws. But if it's a plastic any plastic can be recycled by MARPAN. I mean, they've even recycled, I go for tours quite frequently. And I mean, they'll even take like laundry baskets and things like that. They have a homebrew system. It's great, yeah. You're never gonna see another recycling system like what they have at MARPAN. That's been developed over time.
I do have a comment about plastic grocery bags. You know, you can take them to Publix or Walmart, and they have bins.
Yes,
to
yeah.
put 'em in.
Styrofoam too. All right, so we are up on time. So I do have business cards. I'm happy to connect outside of this conversation. If you have specific questions, happy to give you my contact information. And also, that's how you can get yourself added to a wait list for one of our compost bins or rain barrels for the different programs that we put on. So thank you all for coming today. Oh, thank you very much.